The morning sun painted Sunny's Café in golden hues, a cozy corner of Willow Creek where the scent of fresh coffee, sizzling bacon, and warm blueberry muffins promised comfort to everyone who walked through the door. Families chatted over steaming plates. Waitresses weaved through tables with practiced ease. The clink of spoons against mugs created a symphony of everyday life. But for one person, this morning wasn't about comfort. It was about surviving a moment that would test the strength of their spirit. In a quiet corner booth, a teenage boy named Eli sat alone. His crutches rested against the wall, their worn grips a testament to years of use. A plate of blueberry waffles sat in front of him, the syrup pooling like a small lake. But Eli hadn't taken a single bite. His eyes stayed glued to the table, as if it could shield him from the world. Eli was born with a condition that made walking a daily challenge. He was used to curious glances and hushed whispers. But today, the air felt heavier. Today, cruelty was waiting to strike. Across the cafe, a group of 4 teenagers sprawled across a booth, their voices loud and careless. They weren't just talking, they were targeting Eli. One of them, a boy with a smug grin, flicked a crumpled napkin at Eli's plate, watching it land in his syrup with a mocking laugh. Another leaned over, nudging Eli's crutches with his foot until they crashed to the floor with a loud clatter. The cafe froze. Conversations stopped. Forks hung in midair. All eyes darted toward Eli. His cheeks flushed red, not from anger, but from the burning sting of humiliation. He bent down, struggling to reach his crutches, his hands trembling as laughter from the teenagers pierced the air. If you believe that kindness should always triumph over cruelty, that every person deserves respect, no matter their differences, that no one should feel alone in a crowded room, please hit that like button right now. Drop a comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to Moral Echo Tales. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world compassion is stronger than hate. Eli's life had never been a straight path, born with a rare condition affecting his legs. He'd spent years navigating a world that wasn't always kind. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "Your heart is bigger than any obstacle, Eli. Let it shine." Those words were his anchor, even when the world tried to pull him under. At school, he faced sidelong glances and awkward silences. Strangers often offered pitying smiles, assuming they understood his struggles. But what happened in Sunny's Café wasn't pity. It was cruelty sharp enough to cut deeper than any physical pain. The teenagers' laughter grew louder, bouncing off the cafe's walls like a taunting echo. One of them mimicked Eli's struggle to pick up his crutches, exaggerating the motion for laughs. Another tossed a sugar packet at him, snickering as it landed on his lap. The other customers watched, some shaking their heads in disapproval, but no one stepped in. The barista, a young woman named Sarah, stood frozen behind the counter, her hands gripping a tray of coffee mugs, her face etched with uncertainty. Eli tried to focus on his waffles, pretending the taunts didn't exist. But each word felt like a weight pressing down on his chest. He wanted to shout, to demand why people could be so heartless, but his voice stayed locked inside, trapped by fear and shame. Then, a small act of kindness broke through the darkness. A woman in her 60s, with silver hair tied in a loose bun and eyes full of quiet compassion, approached Eli's booth. Her name was Mrs. Clara, a regular at Sunny's who always carried a book and a warm smile. She knelt beside Eli, ignoring the teenager's snickers, gently picked up his crutches, setting them back against the wall. "You're stronger than they'll ever understand," she whispered, her voice soft but firm. She patted his hand before returning to her seat, her own coffee now cold. It was a flicker of light in a storm, but it wasn't enough to erase the hurt. Eli sat there, his appetite gone, feeling exposed like every eye in the cafe was judging him. The minutes dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Eli stared at his plate, his throat tight with unspoken words. Why did the world work this way? Why did some people find joy in tearing others down? The teenagers continued their taunts, now bragging loudly about their prank, oblivious to the pain they'd caused. Eli closed his eyes, wishing he could disappear. praying for the moment to pass. But then, the air in the cafe shifted. A low rumble stirred outside. Faint at first, like distant thunder. Heads turned toward the wide glass windows as the sound grew louder, more distinct. It wasn't thunder, it was the growl of motorcycle engines. The entire cafe turned to watch as a line of motorcycles filled the parking lot, their engines roaring like an approaching storm. Sunlight bounced off polished chrome. The riders' leather jackets bore the bold emblem of the Iron Riders, a group known for their fierce reputation and unshakable loyalty. Conversation stopped. Forks clattered onto plates. Even the teenagers fell silent, their smirks fading as they exchanged nervous glances. Everyone in Willow Creek knew the Iron Riders. They weren't just tough. They were a force, unafraid to stand up for what was right. The cafe door swung open, the bell jingling softly. But the silence that followed was louder than any sound. A tall woman stepped inside, her weathered leather jacket heavy with patches, her dark hair pulled back in a braid. Her name was Mara. Her presence commanded the room. Behind her, 3 more riders entered, their boots heavy on the wooden floor, their eyes scanning the cafe with quiet intensity. The air felt charged, like the moment before a lightning strike. The teenagers shrank in their booth, their earlier confidence replaced by unease. Mara's eyes moved from the teenagers to Eli. In that moment, it was as if she saw everything. His pain, his strength, his silent battle. Without a word, she walked toward his booth, her steps deliberate, her boots echoing in the silence. She crouched beside him, her tough exterior softening as she met his gaze. "You okay, kid?" she asked, her voice low but warm. Eli nodded, his throat too tight to speak. But for the first time that morning, he didn't feel alone. He felt seen. Mara stood and turned toward the teenagers. The room held its breath. Her voice was calm but carried a weight that made everyone listen. "You think it's fun to pick on someone who's fighting battles you'll never understand?" she said, her eyes locked on the group. The teenagers' faces paled, their bravado crumbling under her gaze. She didn't raise her voice, but her words cut through the air like a blade. Real strength isn't in tearing people down, it's in lifting them up. One by one, the teenagers slid out of their booth, grabbing their bags, stumbling toward the exit. They didn't dare look at Eli or Mara. Outside, the Iron Riders stood by their bikes, their arms crossed, forming a quiet wall of strength. The teenagers' exit felt like a retreat, their earlier arrogance replaced by shame. Customers whispered to each other, some nodding in approval, others wiping tears from their eyes. But Mara wasn't done. She waved Sarah, the barista, over, slid a crisp $50 bill across the counter. "Get this kid whatever he wants," she said. "Waffles, milkshakes, pie, whatever makes him smile." Then she turned back to Eli, her tough exterior melting into a warm smile. "You're tougher than any of them, kid. Don't let anyone tell you different." In a moment that brought a hush to the cafe, Mara untied the red bandana from her wrist, a symbol of the Iron Riders, gently tied it around Eli's. "You're one of us now," she said. Eli's eyes filled with tears, not of pain, but of gratitude. The cafe erupted in soft applause, customers clapping, some dabbing their eyes with napkins. Sarah, the barista, brought over a fresh plate of blueberry waffles and a chocolate milkshake, her own eyes misty. "You've got friends here, Eli," she said, squeezing his shoulder. Mrs. Clara, the woman who'd helped earlier, raised her coffee cup in a quiet toast, her smile wide. For the first time in a long time, Eli felt a spark of hope. He realized that while cruelty existed, so did courage. And sometimes, it came from the most unexpected places, as the Iron Riders rode off, their engines fading into the distance. The cafe buzzed with a new energy. Customers approached Eli's booth, offering kind words and warm smiles. A little girl from a nearby table shyly handed him a crayon drawing of a motorcycle, saying, "You're cool." Eli laughed, the sound light and free. He took a bite of his waffles, the sweetness filling more than just his stomach. It filled his heart. This is the power of kindness, a force that can turn a moment of pain into a memory of strength. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, there are people ready to stand up, to lend a hand, to show us we're not alone. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Moral Echo Tales. Your support keeps these stories alive, spreading the message that compassion always wins. Before we go, I have a challenge for you. If you were in Sonny's cafe that day, what would you have done to stand up for Eli? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your words might inspire someone to act with courage when it matters most. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button.